Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny. If you like to laugh, and who doesn't, then you've come to
Hit the
right
timer.
place. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. Frank Powell is a real estate broker who was born and raised in San Diego, along with Frank's brother Mark, a real estate broker who also lives in San Diego. Each week, the Powell brothers bring in a special guest comedian to share hilarious real estate stories so you can learn what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. So now, let's get into it. With My Funny House, here are your hosts, Frank and Mark Powell on The Answer San Diego.
Mics are hot.
Hey, Frank. How you doing today?
Good.
I just want to introduce us. I am Mark Powell, and my brother sitting right next to me here in the studio is Frank Powell. Say hello, Frank.
Hey, how's it going out there?
So today we're going to talk about some really cool things that have to do with real estate, things that people should know and should know about buying and selling a house. And what we're going to talk about today, before we bring in our special guest comedian, is disclosures, something called a seller property questionnaire and what you should disclose. And I'm going to ask Frank a question right now. Frank,
Yeah, go ahead.
can you explain to me what a material fact is?
Oh, well, a material fact is something that you want to know, everything you want to know about a house. So you have to explain, like, if you ever had a leaky roof, because this is what people tend to want to not talk about. This is a hard one because people say, hey, you see that paint up on the ceiling? Well, that was a leak, but I took care of it, so let's not disclose it. So this is a tough one that you have to talk your people into disclosing everything. So there's a form called the Seller Property Questionnaire, which makes it a little bit easy on realtors, but difficult on the sellers because they have to come clean on what's going on.
Yeah, because sometimes they can get a little bit nervous, go, hey, should I tell them about that toilet leak that we had? Or should I tell them about, that dispute I may have had with my neighbor? Is that one?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So what you really want to find out is what's going on also in your neighborhood. I'll give you an example. Remember that house we sold in East County where the houses were like an acre apart? But once we closed the deal, the guy called and said, hey, there's a bunch of barking dogs. I mean, like 6 in the morning.
Yeah,
it
Chihuahuas.
Sounds,
they were Chihuahuas.
It sounds like
Chihuahuas are crazy.
Yeah.
Didn't those Chihuahuas attack you once?
That was a different house, but that's true. That happened too.
Hey, Frank,
jumping over the wrong fence.
Let's bring in a real special guest right now. I'd like for you, if you could, can you introduce Maria Herman for the audience?
For those of you who don't know, Maria Herman was in the international festivals, performed for the troops in Afghanistan. So she did some heavy comedic relief for Afghan troops.
Oh, yeah.
What else does she do? She produces the longest running independent comedy show in San Diego at the Comedy Heights. And she's Australian, so she has a really cool accent.
She's Australian. I heard she grew up in a shack. Well, why don't we just bring her on, you know?
Hey, Maria, are you out there?
I am right here.
Okay. So what we're talking about is things that go right and wrong with real estate. One of them, one form that we have to fill out, we have to make sure that the clients fill it out. It's called the Seller Property Questionnaire, where they have to answer questions about their house. For example, I'll give you one that people don't know that we experienced is a person said their house was haunted with a ghost.
Yeah, they said they had poltergeists in their house that were terrorizing the family and attacking them in their sleep. Can you just kind of help us and maybe chime in and also talk about what special guests you have?
What?
That's a lot of stuff, isn't it?
It was a lot. Thank you so much for having me on your show, your inaugural show. Thank you. Quite an honor. First off, I have sold a house, and so I have done that disclosures list before, and you're right. That's a lot of stuff. Personally, all the grievances that I ever had with neighbors, I kind of felt as though that disclosure list was an opportunity to just vent.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like I've had it all. We had one time, we were in a house where there was a guy had a rooster next door.
Oh, God.
That's a 5 o'clock thing.
Right.
That's something a buyer may like to know ahead of time. Yeah, exactly.
That's a perfect example of a material fact that you probably want to know about before you buy a house.
Right, exactly, because you're not showing house at 5 o'clock in the morning, or maybe you are. I don't know what kind of realtors. I'm sure you'd be accommodating. Ghosts. Do you even have to disclose ghosts? How are they even going to know? I mean, really?
Well, the actual case study that they had out of New York, that somebody claimed it actually went to court, and the answer, even in California, is yes. If you have a ghost living in your house and doing your dishes or whatever they do, you have to disclose it. As strange as that sounds, because people who have ghosts in their house take it seriously, even though you can laugh about it. But it's like, can you imagine that someone, knocking?
Hey, Maria, have you ever had any experience with ghosts?
I've never, but I'll be honest. If there was a house and they disclosed that a ghost was washing the dishes, I would buy it. I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Do they do laundry?
Exactly. Do they do the lawn? No problem.
Yeah, so true.
All of it. Yes, I would take that house. Actually, my mother and I, when I was a teenager, the house that we moved into, we loved it. And but as the neighbours got to know us, they kept asking it, "How's it going over there? How you doing in your house? Anything going on?" Well, it turned out there had been a double murder in the house.
Whoa.
And we never, that's a big deal. My mother never heard anything. Maybe it's not an Australian law. Maybe they don't have a ghostbuster law down under. But the truth is we never heard anything. It was a dead zone. literally a dead zone.
Yes.
Nothing going on. Nothing.
We got those too. We had, it's easier to explain if somebody passed away in a house peacefully as opposed to a murder. So that's a tough one also, because you don't know how people are going to react. And everyone reacts differently. So definitely something you have to disclose if somebody died within 3 years of selling your house.
Maria, was there somebody else?
So wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are you telling me you only have to disclose if someone died within 3 years? Because you would think of a ghost being more like from the 1800s in a white dress or something.
Well,
Are you telling me that somebody in flip-flops, you'd have to disclose if there was a ghost in flip-flops with gym yoga pants, a set of Lululemons or something wandering around? Maybe they're the ones doing the dishes.
It's so true. But you know what I always found out? Every time we do this, we've done it about 3 times, people having ghosts. The ghosts are always destructive. There's never a ghost that cleans your house. They always knock stuff over.
No, they're always breaking things.
Right. I mean, obviously, if you come home and your dishes are done, definitely I would think I had a ghost, because no one's going to do the dishes. If I came home and everything's knocked down, I'd just go, my wife's mad at me again, and I wouldn't blame the ghost. So it just depends.
Exactly. As long as it's a friendly ghost like Casper, I think you're going to be fine. But some of these ghosts are kind of terrorist ghosts. We don't want those around.
But yeah, so the answer is yes. You have to disclose if you have a poltergeist, and if something's scratching you at night or waking you up or doing whatever, you got to disclose that.
I don't know. That just sounds like a bad relationship, honestly. like you said, it's just, and probably you're disclosing that to your friends all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So true.
Maria,
I just can't believe they have a law that makes it so you have to say something that it's actually that common. That seems really surprising to me.
Well, some of the things that people have to disclose. This is like on the serious side. They have to disclose if you have a leaky roof, if there's any lawsuits, if there's any potential developments by your house, any noises like jets flying over, just anything that would influence.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I remember living in Ocean Beach. I live right by the beach, and I rented this place. And every morning at 9 o'clock, if I was on the phone, I had to stop talking, because at 7:27 would take off. I was right in the flight path.
Right.
That would be a really good one to disclose, because that would be definitely a potential lawsuit if somebody finds out that they can't speak in their own house at 9 because everything's taken off.
Right. Oh, I lived in Point Loma for a long time.
Yeah, Point Loma is.
Yeah, we had to deal with North Island. The noise from North Island, you quiet down, and I don't know, it looked like we were going to war. I'm sorry,
Exactly.
all of these jets had to go overhead, and all that.
That's so true.
But yeah, wouldn't that be kind of weird for people not to know that? I mean,
well, listen, when people are excited and they're going out and they hear a jet flying over, they don't think that this is going to happen every 15 minutes. So obviously, it's obvious as a realtor if you're showing the house or having an open house. But for someone who just comes once or twice and they hear a jet, they'll blow it off because they're just more focused on the house. So you definitely got to disclose it. And remember, in real estate, everything has to be in writing. So just put it in writing, like, hey, you're under a flight path. And typically, it won't matter if you disclose it. The problems always happen when you try to hide something. But here's what I want to do, Maria. We have Tony Calabrese on the line also. Can you bring him on this conversation, because he's one funny character?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to. Tony is one of my best friends in the whole world, and he has a new special coming out, a new dry bar special actually on drybarcomedy.com. He's very, very funny. We've worked together for more than 10 years. Absolutely hilarious. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Calabrese.
Woo.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Tony Calabrese here. I'm using my radio DJ voice right now.
I like that voice.
That's good.
I heard the intro to the show and thought I should be talking like this the whole
Hey,
time.
I thought the same thing, like one of those intros, like, here are the
You
Powell
should talk
brothers.
like that all day.
Hey, so much enthusiasm, and then here's Frank and Mark.
Yeah.
You guys got to build that out
Exactly.
there.
Yeah.
You know.
Help us bring it back up. Hey, Tony, so what we're
I don't
talking
talk
about...
like that, so, yeah.
So what we're talking about, this one form, there's a whole bunch of forms in real estate. I mean, it's unbelievable how many forms we have to fill out. But this one is the most difficult that Mark and I have. It's called the Seller Property Questionnaire, or SPQ. And what we do is we hand the people this 3-page
halfway
document.
point.
And we hand them over a 3-page document, and they look at these questions, and they have to answer them. And we just have to tell them you have to answer honestly. So we're talking about ghosts and poltergeists and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, before we move on to that topic, though, we're going to take a little commercial break, and we're going to be coming back with Tony Calabrese with some really funny stories about what can go right and what can go wrong. You're listening to My Funny House with the Powell Brothers. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, I thought we were going 22 minutes,
Yeah,
so
that's what I thought. I don't know why Mark just did
Because
that.
we have to do a break.
No, we don't.
we're doing. I
Two and
thought
two. We're going straight through.
I was told we're 2 minutes in the top and 2 minutes at the bottom of the show for commercials.
Todd, was that wrong?
Oh, I mean, I can edit that, but what I was told is that you're gonna have 2 minutes in the beginning and 2 minutes
was
at the
wrong.
end.
Okay. Oh,
But it's all right.
I
He's
apologize.
just telling us what the halfway point is. So it's perfect that the halfway point is we bring in Tony.
Yeah,
Okay,
you have 11 minutes left
You don't
from
have to
this
say that.
point on.
Number 2 and 2.
Okay, I thought you wanted
And then
to
at the
say
end of the
that.
show, I'll give you a 2 minute, 1 minute, and then a 30 seconds. I'll
That
start
was
playing
really
them.
good, though. That sounded great.
Yeah. So what we'll do is
That
at
was
the end,
really good.
when Todd gives us, we're going at the end, we're going to say, hey Maria, how do people get in touch with you? And then how do we get in touch with Tony? And if you want to get in touch with the Powell Brothers, go to powellbrothersrealestate.com.
Okay, I'm leaving.
So we're gonna. So we're gonna. Where do we pick it up?
So you can just pick it up with what what you described what you were talking about. So you can just pick it up with your first question with the Tony.
And
Okay.
to take it from introducing Tony, that was a clean cut.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So let's do that, and then we'll take
I
it
like
from there.
Tony's intro though; it was funny. So why don't you pick it up with just your first question with Tony?
Okay.
Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, Tony, thanks for tuning in. So here's my question. We're talking about poltergeist. We're talking about things to disclose. What would you, I mean, Tony Calabrese, that's a nice Italian name. What are some of the things that you had to disclose if you're ever selling a house, if you ever had that experience?
Well, I want to say a couple things first. That the whole rooster thing is a temporary problem. So,
Exactly.
I mean, he's going to do that one time, and then he's going to be dinner. So it's not even going to be an issue. You're going to grow food. It's not going to last long. The other thing is, like for me, there's only one thing that's important. Now, if you're married, this is really a big deal. If you're married, or if you have a significant other that is angry at times, you want to make sure that the house you're buying doesn't have a wah-ha shower. And a wah-ha shower is one of those ones when you get in and you're showering and they flush the toilet, and it's like wah-ha, it's that kind of a thing. I learned that in the first two houses I owned. It's really bad when they just keep flushing over and over and over again while you're in there, because then you're going to have to buy jewelry. But that's kind of the other thing. This is kind of weird because in an Italian neighborhood, there's no bad neighbors. So, I mean, everybody knows everybody, and you don't even talk to each other. You just nod. There's never a, hey, hello. It's just, it's an Italian thing. You just you speak without speaking. And so, when it comes to disclosures, we don't say nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
There's none of that going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I know growing up in my house, nobody went in the basement. You know what I mean? So it was one of those kind of things.
Tony, do you have to disclose what's going on in the trunk of your car?
No, it's only if it's an attached trunk. That's the only thing you have.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, that's all you got to worry about.
Okay, so are you suggesting that in our open houses we let them take showers? Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
You have to flush the toilet, take a shower. That would be a fun open house.
I think, exactly. And this whole ghost thing, I mean, that when you tell them this ghost story, let's be honest, it's not really a ghost. They were baking meth in that house, and that's how they ended up seeing all that stuff. I mean, let's be real. If somebody's doing shrooms, somebody's smoking pot, this is not a ghost. So I think that's you got to disclose that. These people here, they were high.
That's right.
That's all this was.
You have to actually, on a serious note, you have to disclose if you had a meth lab, right, Mark?
Yeah, there's actually a form.
Right,
there's a form that says, was this house used to make crystal meth?
Right. I don't want to say what part, but certain parts of San Diego that were the meth cap of the country for a while.
They were making. They were cooking a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of explosions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like Point Loma right there.
Hey, Frank's idea of a Frank's idea of a methane explosion is different. They normally happen at night.
Right.
Oh, thanks for the visual there. Thank you.
You should disclose it. I think if you're disclosing that this used to be a meth lab, there's other issues with the neighborhood. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you got that right. There's a whole bunch. One of the things that I had to disclose was I was selling a house to a former, talk about Afghanistan, and I know you went there to talk to the troops, but the Blue Angels that fly over, a lot of people who are suffering from PTSD don't want to hear a bunch of jets flying over, and it only happens once a year, so it's one of the things you may forget, and then all of a sudden you got a guy diving into his bed because a Blue Angel's flying over the house. So that's another thing we have to disclose in certain parts.
Oh yeah, you have to disclose any type of noise, any type of, they're called a nuisance, any nuisance, right. Even birds and crows and anything like that, anything that you think that would influence people.
Hey Mark, remember that time we sold the condo and the lady calls us like a year later and said, "You sold me a condo and I don't get along with a neighbor and we've been arguing and it's your fault. It's like our fault." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, what are you talking about?"
Hey Tony, how would you solve a dispute that you have with one of your neighbors? Mr. Calabresi, how do you do that?
I think there'd be a violin case involved.
Yeah.
No, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. Accidents happen in the home most of the time, right? I mean, It's not a big deal.
That's right. You have to have good. You got to have good house insurance when we're selling a house in Calabrese.
Most accidents happen in the home. That's all I have to say about that. I think you sit down with them and you talk to them, and you definitely use this voice. Hey, how you doing? So you talk like that, and I guarantee you over time. I'm not saying that voice is typical of any kind of stereotypical Italian thing, and it's not related to the mafia. There's no such thing as the mafia, just legitimate Italian businessmen that have been persecuted by the federal government. But what I'm saying is that there are certain kinds of ways to address things without violence. I mean, that's horrible. Violence, although I was grown up with violence, was just another business tool. But you just, what are you going to do?
Make them a deal they can't refuse.
Absolutely.
This all sounds like, none of it sounds like really bad. I remember when I was growing up, I woke up one morning and there was just this herd of cattle right in the front yard.
Oh, well, that's Australia.
In Australia, you would never disclose that stuff. That's just waking up in Australia. Well, this morning you have a herd of cattle on the grass. They're the ones that are cutting the lawn this morning. That's it.
It's funny. What we have to also disclose is like we have a season that not too many other people have. It's called the fire season.
Yeah.
So you have to disclose that. So you get a nice house in the country, and you can't really predict how long that house is going to last. And then you also have to explain that you may not be able to get fire insurance in this area. So these are the things that get other realtors in trouble. That you have to know so much about a property and the surrounding areas. You could be in a flood zone. Mission Valley. You're playing golf one day, and the next day you're doing the canoe thing, and the lifeguards are rescuing you.
You could be in a zone where they are hitting golf balls. You have to disclose that.
Oh, that's right.
Arid golf balls.
Right.
Yeah.
Get hit in the head with a
golf ball. Do you guys play golf?
Not anymore.
I have clubs. I don't play golf.
I'm
clubs in the trunk of my car.
Right.
Exactly. Everyone carries a club or two in their car,
Just in case.
But hey, Tony, what kind of clubs do you have in your car?
Yeah.
A lot of 9 irons.
Just one.
So I really appreciate you guys. Like the seller property questionnaire for all those realtors out there, all the people like, why do you want to hire an agent? They always, I could do it. It's easy. It's always easy until something goes wrong. It's like these guys that do the home investments are going to flip a house because they watch something on the home channel. And then the first house may have been easy and they make a lot of money. Then they get in the second house and it's a disaster and they lose all the money. So there's a whole bunch of angles and tricks and knowledge you have to know to be a good realtor and how to speak to the people and get them to just, hey, disclose everything. It doesn't matter, even if you don't think it's worth it, because people will buy the house. They're so excited about getting the house. It's good to disclose it right then. What you don't want is them to pull up the carpet a year from after you bought it and find that big crack that you tried to hide, because then they got 3 years to sue you after discovery, right, Mark?
That's correct.
After discovery.
Yeah, you can be
so,
sued.
Yeah, even if it's 5 years later, you're pulling up a carpet, you see a big crack, yeah, you can still say, and if maybe there's some what's that?
The filler, they put
Yeah.
filler in there, like concrete filler, just to
Right.
hide the crack.
Right.
you know.
So, I'm talking by experience. It's like, hey, why don't you tell us the foundation was cracked? And we solved it, but it was very, very difficult at the time.
Well, one of the biggest things that when people, what are some of the other things that people need to disclose? Like, Maria, you've sold a house. Tony probably sold a house. What did you have to tell people about?
I don't think I even mentioned the aircraft. It seems so obvious. I'm feeling kind of badly about it. The clock is ticking.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, Maria, when I was lifeguarding over there's another thing that I just thought about disclosing. Everything that you have in your front yard is going to rust from that salt water, right?
Right.
Right.
That's another thing.
Including,
you have to clean the windows.
including your car.
Everything is just like rust. Even if it says stainless steel, it's going to rust. So that's one of the things about living close to the ocean. And that sometimes
right. And
the waves are a little.
The mold is the other thing.
2 minutes.
Yeah, mold's very bad.
Okay, so.
But, yeah, and
You have to
not
let people know that you can hear seals barking.
Oh, that's true at the Cove, right? That's another one. There's actually people we talked to at La Jolla Cove, like 939 building, that said, "Hey, this noise is unpredictable." That whole thing started with one or two seals.
Also the seal smell and the
that's
there was
true,
the
too.
smell. But you really you think that it's obvious, but we're kind of heading down to closing the show here, and we'd like to know a little bit more about how to get in contact. How do you listen to Tony Calabrese or Maria Herman or their shows or what? Can you guys give us a little bit of information on your shows?
Well, definitely check out comedyheights.com. It's my regular show in San Diego that's been going on for almost 10 years. It's a terrific show. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all the rest of the Maria Herman Comedy.
1 minute.
Tony?
Well, I'm doing most of my shows from my living room, kitchen, or bathroom now, and really it's walking around talking to myself, and when my wife's not in the room. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing. Now, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that. But right now, it's kind of Zoom shows when they come up. That's about it.
Okay,
Well,
great.
you have the Dry Bar Comedy Special coming
Oh, yeah, I
up.
have my Dry Bar special
Look at
coming
that.
out. I don't exactly know when that's coming out yet. It's supposed to be soon, so they told me any day now. So.
Well, we'll bring you guys both back on. I really appreciate it as a special guest. To get in touch with the Powell Brothers, you can go to powellbrothersrealty.com. We really thank all you guys for listening. We'll see you next week with a different subject and more comedians.
Oh, we're going to have a great comedian next week. We're going to talk about boundaries. Yeah.
Fence lines.
Fence lines and fruit hanging into your yard. So
Oh,
thank you very much for tuning in to My Funny House with the Powell Brothers.
Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny House with the Powell Brothers, right here on The Answer San Diego. Join us next week as the Powell Brothers bring you more funny stories of what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership, and bring the laughs to you with yet another hilarious guest comedian. To find out more about the Powell Brothers, be sure to check out their website at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can visit myfunnyhouse.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week for My Funny House on The Answer San Diego.
All right, good job, guys.
That was easy.